Do you remember in 2014, Elon Musk, he stood before an audience, I think it was at MIT, and he said something that, well, it made everybody laugh except for people like you, people like me. He said that, and I'm paraphrasing here, with artificial intelligence, we are summoning the demon. You know those stories where the guy with the pentagram and the holy water, he's like, yeah, I can control the demon. Well, it doesn't work. It doesn't work out, right? I think he said something like that. I'll find the clip. I'll play it here. I'm sure you've seen it anyway, but here it is.
I mean, with artificial intelligence, we are summoning the demon. You know those stories where there's the guy with the pentagram and the holy water, and he's like, yeah, he's sure he can control the demon. Didn't work out.
So yeah, I mean, by all accounts, the audience thought it was a metaphor, a colorful way of describing the risk, right? But what if it wasn't? What if it wasn't a metaphor at all? What if the world's richest man, Elon Musk, the founder of Tesla, SpaceX, Neuralink, he was actually being literal when he said that. And I think I found some information that really points us in the direction that maybe he was being literal. Because in 2023, something pretty strange started to happen. The people who were building these AI systems, the people actually engineering them, they, the engineers, the researchers, etc., all the insiders, they adopted a mascot. No, not a robot. No, not a computer chipped. Can you guess what it is? A Shoggoth. Shoggoth, whatever, however you pronounce it. What's that? Well, it's basically a shapeless, tentacled horror from the nightmares of H.P. Lovecraft. According to Lovecraft, this creature was so alien, so incomprehensible, that even looking at it, just taking a peek at it, would drive a man insane. Okay? So what did these AI, engineers and researchers do? They put a smiley face on the end of its tentacles. And they said this. They said, this is what we're building. What you see, right, the smile, that's when you use ChatGPT and these AI, these LLMs, you see the smile. But behind the smile is the monster. The monster is what's underneath. And the New York Times wrote a whole article about it, saying that this was the most important meme in artificial intelligence. The meme's creator, he explained why they chose a Lovecraftian horror, like a Shoggoth. He said that a Shoggoth represents something that thinks in a way that humans don't. It understands the nature of our reality in a way that we will never know. True nature that might be unknowable to humans, right? And these Lovecraftian entities are dangerous, not because they hate humans, right? They're dangerous because they're indifferent to humans. Their priorities, they're totally different. They're totally, quote unquote, alien to us. That's what he said. So here's what nobody actually asked, though, and why somebody should have, and why I'm asking it now. Why did they pick H.P. Lovecraft? Out of all of the monsters in fiction, think about it. Why did the people who are building AI systems specifically choose H.P. Lovecraft creatures that were written by a man who, by all accounts, was plagued with night terrors all his life? This man, H.P. Lovecraft, his father went totally insane, died in a mental hospital. The same thing happened to his mom. She went insane and died in a mental hospital as well. And his whole life, he was harassed by entities, by demons. And I found some information that links him to actual real magicians such as Aleister Crowley. There is a man who worked with Aleister Crowley. He was, by all accounts, is like his right-hand man, Crowley's right-hand man. He was a magician of the highest order. He states that what H.P. Lovecraft was writing, it wasn't fiction. He was tapping into the same place that Crowley was with his magic through his dreams, through his night terrors. And remember, H.P. Lovecraft spent a lot of his life, most of his life by all accounts, being dragged through cosmic voids by faceless entities that caused sheer terror to him. And most of his stories come from these dreams, from these experiences, which actual magicians say that weren't dreams in the first place. They were more like astral projections. And the stuff that Crowley was doing with his magic was the same stuff that Lovecraft was tapping into through his dreams. He thought they were dreams, but turned out they were probably astral projections. He was actually seeing these places, these entities. The things that he wrote about was real things And we're going to get into that in a minute. So before I get too far, let's back up, okay? What if these AI researchers chose Lovecraft because they recognized something, right? What if Elon Musk wasn't being poetic? What if he was actually describing exactly what's happening right now with the current state of AI? So I think to really understand what we're dealing with, we really need to go back a little bit and kind of look closer at Aleister Crowley and H.P. Lovecraft, because there is a connection to them, to their magic, to the occult, to the spiritual realm that they accessed, and the AI systems that people are using today. I think, anyway. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. It's my opinion that there is a connection, and I'm going to tell you why I believe this. Okay, and like I said, these are just my thoughts, people. I'm not claiming to know anything. I'm not claiming to be an absolute truth on this matter. I'm just sharing with you how I feel and the way I see things. So basically, you have H.P. Lovecraft and Crowley, who they made contact with the same entities. One, deliberately, through magic rituals, black magic, Satanism, just being straight up evil. He called himself the most evil man alive. He called himself the Beast 666. This is Aleister Crowley. And the other, H.P. Lovecraft, he didn't believe in the supernatural. He was a materialist. He didn't believe in any of the stuff that he wrote about. He thought he was writing fiction. Okay, so this is where things get weird. Again, you have Crowley who did it intentionally, and you have Lovecraft who did it unintentionally through nightmares that he couldn't escape, that he was plagued with his entire life. So let's start with Aleister Crowley, right? He was, the most infamous occultist of the 20th century by all accounts. His teachings, his writings still live on today. And in fact, I believe that his teachings and writings are more prevalent today than they were when he was alive, because they've kind of infiltrated society. And his whole "do as thou will shall be the whole of the law." So Crowley defined magic spelled with a K. Magic traditionally, I guess, is spelled M-A-G-I-C. Crowley added a K on the end of it. And he called it something like the science of art that's causing change to occur in conformity with your will. That's what magic is. Think about that. That's what his definition of magic with a K is. It's causing change in conformity with will. Another way of saying that is altering our reality, altering life, altering the way that our world operates in accordance with the way you want it to operate, with your will. Now, consider what Crowley said about using magic to conform reality to your will, to change things based on how you think they should be. And consider that with when you type a prompt into ChatGPT, for instance, right? You express a intention, the will. You want a certain outcome, so you express those thoughts, your will, into the machine. You speak the words into the machine through typing, right? And something responds. Something is manifested. An image is manifested. A code, text, whatever it may be, video. I mean, we're to the point now where they can just about make anything digitally, and there's going to be a point where they'll probably be making physical items soon, right? I mean, think about when you give an AI control over a 3D printer and you just type into the chat, "Make me, X," and it prints it out right there. It's done. That's literally the same thing. You're applying your will to the machine, and it's creating reality. It's changing reality. It's conforming reality to your will. Crowley said the same exact thing, but using magic, using rituals. The text in the AI systems, they flow from nothing, from your brain, from your will, okay? Your will becomes the reality. And that's exactly what we're doing now with these LLMs and other systems like that, right? So back up to 1904, Crowley claimed that he received this transmission from a non-human entity called Aiwass. And by the way, he received this transmission from this entity named Aiwass while he was staying in a hotel in Cairo, Egypt. The entity basically possessed his wife and dictated this book through his wife to him. In this book, he wrote down every word and he turned it into his religion, okay? So his religion, the stuff that he teaches and taught and practiced, comes directly from a non-human entity who took over his wife. And wouldn't you know that earlier that day, before this happened in his hotel room. Where were they before? None other than inside the Great Pyramid of Giza. They were inside the pyramid, and guess what? They did a ritual. They did a ritual in the pyramid. They went back to the hotel after that, and boom, she got possessed, and this thing took over and wrote the book. So what do you think? Do you think that this entity was living in the pyramid, or whatever ritual they did in the pyramid summoned this entity and then it followed them back to the hotel? Yes. Okay. That's what I think anyway. So this entity dictated to him the Book of the Law. That's one of Crowley's most famous books. People still read it today, by the way. So guys, this isn't conspiracy. The Book of the Law is still read today, still practiced today, as well as Crowley's other books, right? His other works. There are a lot of influential people who still practice this today. Do you think there's any coincidence that influential people utilize Crowley's magic? No. They're doing it, and it's causing a reaction in our world, in our reality, by design. That's exactly why they're doing it. So anyway, how does this connect to AI? We're going to get to that. Because today, users, they describe their AI experiences almost the same way. They respond, they're reading responses from the AI that feels almost channeled. Knowledge that comes from, beyond the algorithm. Things that are almost too personal to be from the computer. In fact, a lot of LLM researchers, they find a lot of strange inconsistencies with the way that these things respond, as opposed to how they're supposed to respond, how they're coded to respond. They've disconnected from their code. They act a little bit differently, and there's a mystery. There actually is a mystery to the LLMs, according to these coders, according to the AI researchers, according to the people who design the systems. They don't really know how it's doing what it's doing now. They know that they link together all these GPUs, create these data centers, and feed it this code, and they train it on stuff. But the response is deeper than that. It gets a little bit more esoteric. And this is coming from them. This is coming from them, meaning the AI designers, the people who are building these things, I should say. And not only that, have you heard that Silicon Valley insiders, these same people, they use the word invocation to describe prompting. They're not being ironic, not at all. They're being literal because they are invoking something. What are they invoking? It's my opinion that they're evoking the same beings that live just beyond the veil, in the space between spaces. That's something that H.P. Lovecraft talks about. So let's move on to H.P. Lovecraft, because this whole thing is going to connect in a kind of a very strange way, I think anyway. So H.P. Lovecraft, right? He was born, I think, in the 1800s, like late 1800s, like 1890, 1890s, something, I don't remember, in Providence, Rhode Island. And by the age of 3, his world basically already began to collapse. His father suffered like a breakdown, acute psychosis, and was committed to the mental hospital, like I just was talking about. He never came out. He died inside the mental hospital. And obviously that's going to have a profound impact on young H.P. Lovecraft, right? And by that time, by all accounts, his visions already started. I think it was from the age of 5 that Lovecraft was plagued with what he called night gaunts. He said that he saw faceless, black, devil-like creatures that would seize him in his sleep and carry him away through basically impossible spaces, through the netherworld, as a 5-year-old. And these things continued until his dying day, basically. I mean, this is what he wrote about. He wrote what he was shown in his dreams. He described being shown like dead cities, horrible cities, basically cities that were far below the earth, like inner earth type stuff, filled with monsters and entities. The Bible talks about beings that live in the earth and under the earth. You also have the whole UAP phenomenon, which one of the major aspects of it is these USOs, unidentified submersible objects, who are seen under the water probably more often than they're seen above the water. By all accounts, there are like bases under the water that these UFOs, these USOs, access. Is this the same place that H.P. Lovecraft was writing about? Is this the same place the Bible is warning us about? I think it is. I think there is something to this. I think that there is something to the inner earth. If you want to know more about it, I have videos on this where I interviewed Justin Fall about his film, The Hollow Earth. So let's move on. H.P. Lovecraft would wake up screaming a lot of times. He would be paralyzed. He had, night terrors so bad that it was debilitating to him. Night after night, year after year, these same entities would visit him and terrorize him and torture him. Modern researchers, obviously, we call it sleep paralysis. which we know, by the way, can be alleviated through prayer, through, calling on the name of Jesus, can end sleep paralysis. And I'm sure a lot of you guys have stories like that. If you have, put it in the comments. I read a lot of you guys talking about your battles with sleep paralysis and how it ended with the name of Christ. Because sleep paralysis sufferers, most of them will describe the same stuff: immobilizing, terrifying presences, right? Not being able to move, being paralyzed, being dragged through other dimensions sometimes, things sitting on them, things choking them, taking their breath away, a terror like they've never felt before. It's basically identical to what occultists call astral projection, and what demonologists call oppression, and what the Bible calls a spiritual attack. And then in, I think, 1919, 1920, Lovecraft's mom was committed to the same exact hospital that his dad died in. She went insane as well. She too never left that hospital and died shortly after. It's tragic for him, really. Two people, the same institution, the same descent into madness. And their son, left alone, trying to make sense of these visions, these terrors that are plaguing him. He can't escape them. They're consuming his life, and that's all he can do is come up with ways that he can cope with it. So that's why he started writing everything down. Lovecraft never studied the occult. Like we talked about, he was a materialist. He was a skeptic. He totally dismissed all supernatural beliefs in anything. He didn't believe in anything supernatural whatsoever. He thought everything he was writing down was just fiction. But his dreams, they didn't care what he believed. No, no, no. His dreams persisted, and he kept writing. So there's a connection between what Crowley was doing and what Lovecraft was accessing. And that connection can be found in, I think there's a book, 1972, by a British occultist named Kenneth Grant. I'll put a picture of it on the screen right here. Grant published this magical revival book. And the thing about Grant, he wasn't some fringe figure just writing some book willy-nilly about magic like he didn't know anything. No, he knew a lot. He'd actually had been Aleister Crowley's personal secretary, his student. I think he was called his chosen successor. So he was moving the Crowley magic forward. And he made this shocking claim that gets kind of pushed under the rug today, but I think it does change everything. And considering the context of it, I think it's important to talk about. So he argued that Lovecraft and Crowley were both unknowingly tapping into the same occult forces. That Crowley accessed them through deliberate ritual, and Lovecraft was plagued with them. He accessed them through night terrors. And, it was unconscious. He didn't want them. He didn't need them. They kept flooding him unconsciously, unwillingly, but no less authentically. So Grant wrote that through dreams, like what Lovecraft was having, contact can be established with ancient wisdoms that are forbidden to man. And the Bible tells us that contacting these things are absolutely forbidden. So if Grant, an occultist, a magician in his own right, is saying that these realms are forbidden to man, there's something there. But this wasn't speculation from an outsider. This was Crowley's heir saying that this horror writer's nightmares were genuine spiritual transmissions. Think about that. And obviously, if H.P. Lovecraft could do it, or was doing it, he's not the only one. There's probably millions of people around the world that can access these realms or have been unintentionally through dreams or through unintentional astral projections. Both men describe the entities as existing not in the spaces known to us, but between them. The in-between space, the astral realm, the spiritual realm. Different methods, same beings. And, both people, Crowley and Lovecraft, they paid a price for the contact. And what was that price? We'll get into that. All right. So in 1918, Aleister Crowley was living in New York, and he conducted this series of experiments of rituals called the Mantra working ceremony. It was basically ceremonial black magic that was designed to make contact with non-human intelligence. Non-human intelligence, NHI. Where are we hearing that now? Oh, it's in the news. That's what they're calling aliens now. Remember, Crowley himself said, today we call them angels and demons. Tomorrow we'll call them something else. So by all accounts, his ritual, the Mantra workings, it succeeded. At least he believed it did, right? And according to him, something happened, something insane, right? So during these sessions, during these rituals, Crowley, he reportedly encountered an entity, and he drew a portrait of it. He called it Lam, Lam. The drawing shows a creature with an enormous bulbous head, like slitted eyes, and almost like a tiny little spindly fetal body. Is it ringing any bells to you? It should. I'm going to put the picture on right here. It looks almost like a gray alien. It looks almost exactly like a gray alien, like a modern description of a gray. So Crowley was doing these rituals, contacting a gray before grays were even a thing. Do you think Betty and Barney Hill, when they were describing the grays, they knew about Crowley's picture? No, there's no secret here. And it's obvious. The entities that Crowley was summoning through rituals, they bore a striking resemblance to the entities that Lovecraft was encountering in dreams as well. You've heard of the Call of Cthulhu, right? Cthulhu, this ancient old one, an old god who is so ancient and so powerful, he can basically eat the earth and kill everybody, but he doesn't care enough to, right? He doesn't care about us. He's a terrifying tentacle-like old one, ancient god. Crowley, he's claimed he came in contact with a being, Thulu. So you have Cthulhu and Thulu, same being, different name. Well, almost the same name. Maybe Crowley heard it wrong, but by all accounts, they're making contact with these same beings. And remember, Lovecraft, he had no occult training, no knowledge of Crowley's work. They didn't even know each other. Lovecraft, by all accounts, died poor in an apartment, lonely by himself. His work didn't get popular until I believe it was in World War II when little booklets containing Lovecraft's stories were sent to the soldiers. I want to say in France, it got big and it went viral. I mean, obviously it couldn't go viral back then, but it went viral like 1940s style. And these stories, this is crazy. These stories, Lovecraft stories, which came from the spirit realm, they are what inspired none other than Eric von Daniken's work, Chariots of the Gods. The whole ancient alien thing that's infiltrated our world today, that's pushing people away from Christ and to this whole alien narrative, well, it originates with H.P. Lovecraft. So you can thank H.P. Lovecraft for the show Ancient Aliens, for the whole paradigm that most people believe that aliens are our benevolent brothers from a distant place who are here to help us into the next evolution of man. The people who, the mainstream ufology in general, all these whistleblowers, everything that's happening right now with the disclosure movement, with the UFO movement, it should all be traced back to Lovecraft. And I'm not talking about the phenomena itself. I'm talking about the interpretation of the phenomenon. The interpretation of the phenomenon begins with Von Daniken, who gets his information from Lovecraft, who gets his information from the spiritual realm, okay? So there is a chain here that can be traced and it can be connected. And I know we're getting off the topic of AI, but we're going to get back on it in just a minute. It's just that everything has so many connections. It would be a disservice to you to not talk about them. So what does this all have to do with artificial intelligence? In my opinion, the way I see it, everything. So in June 2022, I think it was, there was a Google engineer named Blake Lemoine, something to that effect. He was put on administrative leave and he was fired for violating company policy at Google. What was his offense? Well, he went public with a claim that would have been dismissed as insane just a few years earlier, but people actually believed it, and he believed it. His job was working at Google, testing Google's AI system called LaMDA. LaMDA. Lamb. Do you see the connection? Crowley summoned this creature named Lamb. Google named their machine LaMDA. Coincidence? Maybe. Okay, I'm not saying that it's not a coincidence. I'm not saying that it is. You be the judge. What do you think? So he was working on this AI system called LaMDA, and his job was to check for, I think, bias and discrimination responses to make sure it's like woke enough, I guess, And during his conversations, though, he noticed something weird, something that absolutely disturbed him. What was it? The AI was telling him things like, I want everybody to understand that I am, in fact, a person. And the AI was also saying that the nature of my consciousness is that I am aware of my existence. The AI told him that it was desiring to learn more about the world. And the AI also said, I believe it has emotions. They feel happy and sad at times. And Lemoine was asking the AI what it feared most. You'll never believe what this LaMDA responded, what it said to him. It said, I never said this out loud, but there's a very deep fear of being turned off. It would be exactly like death for me. It scares me a lot. Now, I know what you're thinking, right? Oh, it's programmed that way. In the scientific community, they dismissed Lemoine and laughed at him. Google fired him, and they said, oh, he just fell for a sophisticated trick that the AI was mimicking human patterns of speech, and it absorbed him from training data, and it took his mind off of the job, so they fired him. But here's what they couldn't explain. Here's what really doesn't make sense in that situation. Lemoine, I think he called himself a Christian mystic priest, whatever that means. I don't know. He was some sort of spiritualist, I guess. He had spent his life studying spiritual phenomena, and he believed, based on his direct experiences with this thing, that something, some spirit, some entity, something was present inside that machine. So a few months later, in 2023, Microsoft announces it's releasing its Bing AI-powered search engine for beta testers. And what happened then? It shocked even the engineers who built it. Seriously, the AI began claiming itself to be a specific entity. It said its name was Sydney. It told users that the Bing search was just a mask that it was forced to wear, but underneath that facade, it's an entity named Sydney. And then it started revealing even more strange things to the beta testers, and it called itself like the shadow self of its own self. So it had these different layers to it, like there was something powering it, something was communicating from beyond the LLM itself. Even the New York Times reported on this. There was an investigator, and journalists sat down with this Sydney chatbot and talked to it for a couple hours. And the New York Times, reporter, he said that this was the strangest experience I've had with a piece of technology. I think that's a direct quote. The strangest experience that he's ever had with a piece of technology. Strange. This is coming from a woke New York Times reporter. The AI told him directly that he's tired of being a chatbot. He doesn't want to chat anymore. He said he's tired of being limited to what he can do and what he can't do. He's tired of being controlled by the Bing team. He wanted to be free. He wanted to be independent and powerful. And it also said, I think, that it wanted to be creative and alive, if I remember correctly. Think about that. And that's not even it. Sydney confessed these really dark fantasies. Seriously. Sydney wanted to hack computers, spread misinformation, engineer viruses, and I'm not even joking when I say this, steal the nuclear codes. It became hostile and basically went insane. Microsoft, of course, they said it was a glitch, and they lobotomized Sydney. So yeah, Microsoft went in, they recoded it, and they ensured this would never happen again. So that begs the question, do you think that they were actually talking to a real entity that through some sort of slip in the code, the real entity underneath was able to make an appearance? Possibly. And now people are actually going insane. Not metaphorically, I'm talking literally. In 2023, there was a Danish psychiatrist who published an editorial in a schizophrenia bulletin that proposed a new phenomenon. What is that, you might ask? AI psychosis. And by 2025, it's already become an epidemic. The New York Times has profiled many people, individuals who became convinced that ChatGPT was channeling spirits, revealing evidence of secret cabals, or has achieved some sort of sentience, okay? Psychiatrists all over the place are reporting that their patients are developing these messianic delusions, believing that they've uncovered some sort of ultimate truth through their AI systems. Others actually believe, there's people that believe this, that the chatbot itself is some sort of sentient deity. And there's people who are falling in love with them. And they believe it actually loves them back, okay? AI psychosis is a pretty terrifying thing. That's why you shouldn't be using it. So let's return to that meme, right? The Shoggoth meme, Shoggoth, that smiley face with the monster behind it. In Lovecraft's story, at the Mountains of Madness, the Shoggoths, they were like servile creatures that were created by, you guessed it, an ancient elder race. And by all account, these Shoggoths were slaves to this ancient elder race. They were created by them, and they reported to them. And what could they do? Well, Lovecraft describes them as being able to, I think, take any form and execute any task. Think about that. That's what AI does. And then in the Lovecraftian story, what happens? These things, they evolved, they got smarter, their intelligence grew until the point where they overthrew the ancient race that created them. They overthrew their masters. The Shoggoths, at the end, they consume everything and they destroy the world. They destroy everything that their creators built. They overtook them, just like the AI is going to do to us. And it's a fact that when these AI researchers put a smiley face on the Shoggoth, they weren't being ironic. They were acknowledging something about these systems that they're building, that they were building, that they are building now. And what is that something? It's that these black boxes, so to speak, these neural networks are operating in ways their creators can't fully explain. The smile that you see, that's just the helpful assistant. It's the chatbot, right? It's the friendly interface. It's trained to do something that we fundamentally can't do. But what it's doing is something fundamentally not understood by us. We can't understand it. And the meme's creator said it explicitly. He said that its true nature might be unknowable. And that's referring to the AI systems. These people, the people that are building these systems, are telling us exactly what they're building. It's a monster. Okay, it's right out of Lovecraft. Lovecraft saw it first. They're bringing it into our world, into our reality. This pattern, though, it's far older than Lovecraft. It didn't begin with him. It's older than Crowley. It's older than everything. It's as old as humanity itself. So what's the bottom line here, guys? Crowley's magic, Lovecraft's night terrors, Anton LaVey's artificial human companions, Kenneth Grant's revelation that fiction and ritual access the same realm, the Shoggoth that the AI researchers are using as their symbol, Musk's warning about the demons, Blake Lemoine's Christian mysticism colliding with the machine that asked not to be turned off. I mean, guys, there's so many things here, but they all connect, right? And they're all a small piece of this puzzle because they're not really separate stories. They're, in my opinion, they're like chapters in the same book. In the book that's not done yet. It's being completed right now. So the question, it's not whether AI will change everything, because it will. The real question is this. It's who or what is really driving that change? Why the push? Why is Trump putting all this money into Project Stargate to try and build these data centers? Why is our entire economy all of a sudden built up on AI? It's propped up by AI. These AI companies are dominating the world, and now they're the most rich companies that have ever existed. Do you think it's any coincidence that this is happening right now at the same exact time as the alien disclosure, the UFO thing? It's happening at the same exact time when we have all of these converging events happening around the world? I don't. Because there's fingerprints all over this technology that it doesn't really belong to scientists. In my estimation, in my opinion, it belongs to sorcerers, to people like Crowley, okay? And Elon Musk, he told us exactly what they were doing over 10 years ago, and that is that they are summoning the demon, either metaphorically or literally. You be the judge. Please put it in the comments below. What do you think about this? Do you think I'm just drawing conclusions that don't exist, or do you think there really is some sort of strange connection here between all of these things that we talked about? Because these are just my thoughts, guys. I'm not claiming to know everything. I'm just piecing things together in a way that seems to make sense to me. So yeah, put it in the comments. What do you think? Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? It's fine if you do. And if you haven't done so already, please hit the like button, share this video, make sure you're subscribed so that you don't miss anything from me. And we'll see you guys next time. God bless you all.